Welcome towards our first podcast together, I guess, and this is going to be a series pretty much on everything. I guess. Everything related with esports.
Anything and everything. Who knows, we might even steer out of esports if we go a bit rogue. Esports is our agenda though, so we'll try to stick to it.
Yeah, hopefully. But my name is Karath, and I'm joined by Dabra, who is the owner of Corvidae, and I'm just a random idiot who does esports online, so there you have it. But today, our main focus is going to be competitions, because that's what has really been the talk of the town, I guess.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening, and a lot of big stuff happening too, which is good to see. So, I mean, there's a lot to kind of go over. It just really depends on where we want to kick it off.
We can start with a recap, I guess, because I'm not sure, because we've had the small recaps and everything, but I guess comparing the scene, say for example, from last year to this year, it's a definite jump in terms of competition.
It's incomparable, and I mean, one perfect way of putting it is Corvidae last year. We came second in ECA. Boys were a little bit tilted, so first place was definitely within grasp. But it was really just a bit of bragging rights and a little bit of extra money if you did come first. This year, two of our members or previous members, now Chiefs, get to go overseas, coming first at ECA.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit of the iceberg of how much the scene has grown. In a year, it's absolutely incredible. Not even a year.
Not even just ECA. I mean, we had, I guess, ACL, but ACL eventually would evolve into what we have in ESL Australia at the moment. I mean, ESL Australia obviously going a little bit quiet towards the end of 2015. We only had one big one from ESL, which was the Crown one, which was absolutely huge.
That was monstrous.
And then they went a bit quiet, but then they come back in 2016 with a vengeance. I mean, we've had the Season 1 championships, which went... Well, we were both there. That was absolutely amazing.
That was really good. That was a really good event too. It was well run. It looked really good. The competition was actually really great too. I really enjoyed watching it. I just went as a spectator, and for me, loved it. Loved it. So I couldn't even imagine how good it would have been sitting back at home and watching. That would have been even better.
The studio experience was really good for ESL. Then there was, so far this year we've had 2 CG lands.
Yep. One was a little rushed, but good to see them be able to pull it out of the bag.
Was it this one or was it last one?
Yeah, no, the one that just went past, because this was supposed to just be an online thing because the delays in kicking it off. But yeah, they managed to pull it out, and it actually went pretty well. Again, I was there. You were there as well, obviously, casting, so you had to be there.
It's one of the most tiring experiences of my life. I
couldn't even imagine. I'm tired just going, man. It's like a 12-hour day minimum, but for you guys setting up, 18 hours wouldn't even surprise me. So it was good to see them pull that out. It was kind of a last minute thing they've decided and pulled it out of the bag. So hopefully the next one they can make sure it's planned and ready to go.
Yeah, and then obviously with the recent, increase in terms of lands, I was going to say, you remember the Star Ladder qualification that happened about 2 months ago, which Atletico did win and eventually managed to go to China. I was going to say that was kind of like a land, but it really wasn't at the same time because they only had a couple of members there.
That was a little strange. Were you there?
I wasn't there because I think I was in Adelaide.
Yeah, okay, so a few of us went, and we got to chill out. There was only, Leaz and Gotts were the only 2 people physically there. So they couldn't really call it a land, but it was their first venture. They didn't know kind of what they were doing. I did get to speak to the owner and, the guy at least operating it within Australia, and he said it was more of just a learning experience and testing the waters. So hopefully, and with no doubt actually, after speaking with a lot of them, it'll probably be a lot bigger next time. So I think they've learned and they know what works, what doesn't, and if they can get a studio, maybe even hire ESL's one or a random studio, it'll be 10 times better, tenfold. You won't be able to compare it to what it was last time.
And finally closing off, I guess, with AEL, which happened last weekend.
Last week, I don't know. It's all a blur.
It was last weekend
for me. It was a big night.
I think it happened on Friday, which is the 2nd of September, if I recall correctly.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I was there since Thursday picking up players, but that was actually good fun. Standard taxi. Standard taxi. So I drove, I think, a couple of the Atletico boys, which I'm more than happy to do so, because at the end of the day, once again, even though we're all trying to compete and trying to win at the same time, we're all still
we're a community, man. We're going to help each other out. And if we're going to leave people high and dry, then why should people invest in us? So I'm happy to help anyone out. And like you said, driving other players around. If anyone needs a lift, man, just give me a shout. I'll be there.
I think I saved
as long as you don't beat us. If you beat us, then you're on your own.
No, I think I went in. AEL was I mean, regardless of, I guess, when people said the production was good or bad, in terms of, because we were there in terms of the actual studio and everything, the experience was quite good. In all honesty, there was only one part which I would have a flaw about, which is we weren't really fed that well. But that's like a
Oh, okay,
thing.
so no like catering or anything.
I don't think that's on fault of AEL, but that was just one issue that I had because our players were quite hungry. Because we were left.
I didn't even think about that. I don't know. I wasn't physically there, so I don't know how it went. But
that was in terms of, because otherwise, like, everything there was done absolutely amazing. Because a lot of people may only see the outcome of the production and just gone, oh, that looks like, you know, a bit of a cooked event. But I was like, well, they actually put in a lot of effort. These are guys who don't 100% know, like us, I guess. They don't live, breathe esports. We pretty much
or at least CSGO. Anyway, I think they have been involved in esports, maybe not as deep as, say, like a Peanut Gala or a CG or something.
Yeah.
But I think they have been involved around the Dota scene and whatnot.
As in the people involved in production, because this way.
Oh, the production people, yeah, correct. Yeah. The production people would be completely foreign to this industry. So yeah, you're right.
So a lot of the times they won't implicitly know exactly what's happening. For example, we know the map pool off by heart, but these guys may take a little bit longer because they need to have it on a piece of paper. Everyone needs to learn about that. So in terms of that, it's like, sure, there's always going to be problems in terms of production at that level, but otherwise, if you actually were inside it, it was absolutely insane. I mean...
Yeah, well, I got to see some behind the scenes stuff. I spoke to Jara, the guy who was kind of operating it, or at least telling people how to operate. And he showed us a few pictures and a few videos before the actual VIP event kicked off. And I mean, the behind the scenes were great. The production, I haven't seen yet, so I can't comment on that. But like all the effort that they've put in and the money they've thrown at it, you can't knock it, man. You really can't. Yeah. It's incredible. And I haven't seen a spectacle like that ever. I mean, ESL, they're working towards it, but it wasn't like a big mass. You had, SBS was the facility they were using, yep. And then one of the producers from Fox Sports, and then like a 30-people production crew from what I hear. So
yeah, it was absolutely huge.
It was massive, you know, and I haven't seen that anywhere. I don't know if the Crown event was to that magnitude in terms of the people behind the scenes. I suppose it would be something along those lines, but it's incredible for AEL to come out of nowhere and pull that off.
Yeah, and I mean, even because I guess a lot of people would go, but AEL had a lot of, like, you know, shortcomings during the season, I guess, during that production as well. I would argue as well, before like I got into any event work, I would have gone, yeah, these guys are bad, you know, I could do a better job, etc., etc. But then you actually go into it and then you kind of go, it's actually not as easy as you think it is, because you can't just come in and suddenly go, oh, I know absolutely everything, because no one knows. When you come into I think anything like related with this, you think you know everything related with Counter-Strike, and you do. But when you try to translate that into event work, it's something completely different.
Events, look, I'm not going to pretend to know about it, but from the outside looking in, you can see every time an event is run, it's a different issue that arises that causes issues. Yeah. And it's so hard to pick. Like, you can plan and prepare as much as you want, but there's always going to be something. And then you're kind of learning each time. Until you've been in the game for a few years, man, I really don't see how you perfect it, you know. So like I say, we can't really knock the effort they've put in, because any issues that did come up, teething issues in my books.
And I guess, and that's also said at the same time, like, criticism should be okay, but I think a lot of the time the community, and including us, we don't know how to separate the constructive criticism as well as like
just the negative hatred, like the get your pitchforks, boys, we're going to go witch hunting.
Yeah, pitchfork Emporium, so...
Yeah, no doubt. I think this community is guilty of a lot of witch hunts at some points. I think we should kind of just appreciate the effort that's being put in from everyone, regardless of who they work for or with, and just be happy for it. And if there's a problem that we feel doesn't fit our community or industry,
feedback.
Yeah, that's right. Or
always feedback.
Something that we think can be done better and more tailored to our needs. Just give them some feedback. I don't think the trash talk is warranted, but it happens with every CG gets.
Oh, there you are. Now.
CG gets trashed every time they run an event. Oh, this was bad and that was bad. And ESL, I heard a few murmurs of some unhappy people with certain aspects, but I think if we just straight out lay it out, say, okay, this is what was good, this is what was bad, this is where we can improve.
Yeah,
that's how we all move forward.
That's standard industry practice as well. I mean, I think a lot of the industries will have stuff that go, okay, what happened? What did we do good today? What did we do bad? What can we improve on?
Yeah.
The standard, name one good thing you did today, name one bad thing that you did today, and name one thing that you can improve on. Like, that's something we should aim for.
Yeah, definitely. I think more people need to actually give constructive criticism, and it'd be good to see, but we're getting better. A year ago, we would have had a lot worse comments towards some of these events. So we're slowly moving in the right direction, but look, I'm just happy to see all these events coming out, and in large numbers as well. The amount of events that are coming out, in my book, seems to be slowing down in the amount that there is, but the quality is going up. So you're having larger events, bigger prize pools, more prestige, bigger opportunities, whereas before it was ODCs and a lot of little tournaments or weekly things. And some of them, they're okay, like the Kesper and things like that. Good opportunities, but now we're seeing just a big crackdown on, so ECA, ESL, the AL event that just happened, really big opportunities to grow, which is good to see. But on the same token, I would like to see those ODCs still. And my reason for that is all these big tournaments that are happening now are locked. So the teams that are in there. And some of them, they're not up to par in my books. And I'm not going to name names because that'll be a bit biased, obviously. But some of them just aren't up to scratch yet. And they've shown in the past that they've got the potential, but they're just not at that level. And some teams who can get the job done don't get the opportunity because there's no ODC. So people are just basing it off who's at the top and how they go, or who's been around the longest. So I think if we had more ODCs to show, okay, if we see a trend of one particular team who comes first or fourth or second or whatever over a period of 6 weeks in 5 or 6 different ODCs, you can start to gauge their level as opposed to one person who's bottoming out in CG or ESL and they get to continue rolling through all these big opportunities.
I can counter argue that fact as well because I mean if we just look towards the competitions that are happening at the moment, we're seeing that problem at the moment when there's too many tournaments. Because even though it's great in terms of paper when teams will have we have 6-7 ODCs to actually work off over a 3-month period, ODCs are incredibly tiring to play in.
Definitely, yeah. They're long and drawn out.
Secondly, a lot of the time they don't really have many prizes behind the ODCs. Like, say for example, there are community-run ODCs still. I believe there was a quickfire one recently and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. But generally, those are more catered towards amateur and main teams. And rarely you'll probably see, one professional team going, and I don't even think we saw a professional team in one of the last ones, which is, I would say, good. But at the same time, professional teams may just be too tired because they have all these league matches, just CG's on the off-season at the moment. But thankfully, this time we have so many competitions that it forces teams not to go in a massive shuffle. For once, standard to.
We say that now, but give it a week. Typical us. But you're right with ESL. They're locking down on the shuffle, which is really good to see. Hopefully, a few other tournaments follow suit. I think the AEL made a rule you can't change for a certain portion of it. You want to change the roster.
4, I think.
Yeah, so you want to change, which is good to see, and that definitely helps the scene, but. Yeah, look, it's a hard one having pro teams playing so many big events that actually matter in the grand scheme of things as opposed to ODCs. It's a rock and a hard place because you want the entire community to grow, and if you lock out the top level and the bottom level is just stagnant and there's no real growth, we see Atletico coming in now and they're supporting the younger community as a Corvidae with the Jays. We need more like that if we're not going to have these bigger teams play in these other tournaments and kind of grow everyone. But it's a fine balance, man. I don't know how we can play. We had CG, we've had ESL 2 seasons now, the AL, and there was one more kind of big one.
The Zeus ROG now.
That's right, and it's all in succession. There's no real break. So if there was an ODC, or even just a couple weeks...
I missed out the EB Expo, sorry to interrupt, because that's also happening, because that was the big drama that's been happening recently between the Asus ROG qualifiers and the EB Expo qualifiers, because apparently ESL are going to have a 7.5k I think tournament there.
Yep, at the EB, which is... See, I find that rather odd that they've had the conflict, because ESL were promoting the ACES tournament. So it kind of seems like the communication was just completely lacking. Like I'm pretty sure I've seen them tweet it out, or at least members of ESL mention it on their Twitters and say, okay, this is a good opportunity to get involved, and then same day. And now Cam's working on it and trying to fix it up, but yeah, it's a shame to see that happen, considering ESL are generally pretty involved in the timing of things, and they know what other tournaments are happening and are very mindful of that.
I think in terms of this one, and I mean, this is me doing a little bit of speculation in terms of background and everything. If the Rogue Masters are run by Asus, they'll want their own timing. And that's that's the issue. I think it's because they probably thought about the qualified date after everything was done. They probably went, okay, we've got the sign-ups now, these are the qualified dates. And then ESL probably put their hands up and went, hang on, we've kind of got these dates already for the EB Expo. Or some kind of miscommunication happened. Maybe both teams both sides, not teams, decided on the same date. And then that's kind of where, what's going to move first? An immovable force or an unmovable object? What's going to move? Because you can't just say, hey, you guys don't do it on this day, do it another day. Because for someone of either caliber, for Asus or for ESL, because it's important to differentiate that although ESL are promoting Asus, they are not Asus.
Oh, of course, yeah. So they don't operate and make the decisions. I understand that, but
I think a lot of people are mixing that up because a lot of people are going, hang on, they're advertising Asus. Yeah, because obviously you want to support competitions that are locally within the scene.
Yeah. Yeah, people always misinterpret those types of things and go, oh, yeah, well, you mentioned it, so you're in charge of it, you fix it. But look, ESL are working with them now, and it sounds like they've got something sorted. I don't know.
I think it's a pretty poor, maybe not a pretty poor, but it's going to be really, really draining because I think for one qualifier it's 9 to 6, and the other one's from 6 onwards. So that's
nuts. I think I've seen, it might have been Moe actually tweeted something like starting at 4 and finishing at 4, like in the morning, both ends of the spectrum.
Is that when he eats like 2 snack packs a day? Starts at 4 and ends at 4?
Look,
I'm sorry, Moe, I love you, dude.
I don't know if it was you, Moe, bro. I have a feeling it was. If it wasn't, apologies. But I think someone mentioned something about starting early in the morning and finishing early 24 hours later because of how much was happening. Now, I don't know. It sounds to me like that was a bit of a troll, but that's kind of how it feels. They're going to try to sort it in on the same time frame, just spread it out slightly so you can get things done. And if you're a team and you don't have time, or if there is conflict, what do you choose?
Yeah, and we're seeing teams are now choosing. It's like, well, we have to sacrifice some of the competitions.
Yeah, and Immunity were the first ones to pull the trigger on that, and they copped a ban for it. And I understand why. I backed the ban completely. But yeah, we get to a stage where there's so much happening. It's like, well, boys, what do you want to do? And you got to weigh up the larger payout or the guaranteed payout. So if you have a chance of playing in Katowice, would you play there, or would you make sure you play here and win $5,000 at CG or whatever it is? And it's a really hard choice because we've seen Immunity, they obviously didn't make it, unfortunately, but they went for it at least. And we're getting to that stage now where it's like, okay, we're going to have so many teams and so many tournaments, we're kind of just going to disperse the competition. And it's not going to be that same caliber. And I think we're starting to see that personally. I think there's so many tournaments, and just to circle back to what I was saying before, there's so many tournaments and everything that the skill cap's going down, and we're not really seeing talent come up or anything plateau. It's kind of just everyone is dropping because there's so much going on, and they don't have time to work on things or find what works and what doesn't. It's I don't know if it's good or bad. It's obviously good that we've got these tournaments, but is it worth the sacrifice of how well we are and how good this scene is? And we've seen 10 of our best players now ship out of Australia, and that obviously brings everyone down. So we've all dropped a level because we don't get to play these 10 top players. So now we're trying to rebuild, and then what happens when there's another opportunity and they go overseas again, and then we lose them again? So I think there's too much going on in quick succession. I think I'd like it a bit more spread out, and that's a bit of an argument people are having about the majors too. They're saying there's too many big tournaments happening. Like, we've got 3 majors a year now, and then all these other big tournaments coming in over the top.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're getting to that stage where there's so much big stuff happening, and it's causing a little bit of a ruckus. On the same token though, like we said with ESL, teams are sticking together now, and that's good to see.
And I think it's kind of showing in terms of before where we could see, after a season, a massive mixed team comes in and starts demolishing everyone. This time with, I guess, just looking at Team Immunity as an example, on paper, an absolutely dominating team. Because, I mean, if you look at it, James, Destiny, Burn, as well as, I'm trying to remember.
Grat.
Yeah.
Can't forget Grat. Come on, bro.
Sure, bro. And then I think Gaza, who's filling in the 5th at the moment, but will be their coach eventually. I mean, that team was, obviously still made it through the ESL ANZ or AU and
as you would
season
expect.
2, but not putting on a massively dominating performance over teams who have had that consistent lineup, showing that consistency now is so critical.
It's definitely, and I've said it since day one. There's some aspects in which changing a roster would be warranted, but I think overall you need to stay consistent because it's chemistry and communication are key factors in this. And if you just go, I want the guy that's top fragging, yeah, sure, but it's not plug and play. You can't just go, so we need a support player. You get like 180 hour a game, so let's chuck you in. Like, no, a support player, that's not their job. You know what I mean? So people are trying to plug and play too much. So the consistency is a really big factor here, and I think we're seeing it with Destiny and Burn, 2 massive fraggers. I'm scared every time I see Destiny. Right? If I have a team got up against him, I'm like head in my hands, just so scared every time he's just playing aggressive and just dominating. We're not really seeing that now. I don't know if the team's not meshing or maybe they're not practicing. I don't know what the problem is, but you're right, on paper they should be blitzing everything. And I think it comes down to there's so much going on. People haven't had the time to fix their issues or whatever it may be. There's so many tournaments now. It's how do you focus? You can't even squeeze in practice anymore. It's so hard to get what you need to do done with how much is going on. So
including travel as well, because when you travel around, the last thing that you want to do after a hard weekend at a LAN is come back Monday, jet lagged and tired because you're hungover and then, all right, time to prac, boys.
Yeah, let's get on. There's been a few teams that have had issues as well. They've been traveling. I know Atletico have had a few hiccups with players becoming ill after travel. So Leo's tweeted not too long ago that he was really sick and he had to play a game. So there's one, and one of the SWF boys you mentioned was sick at the event. So traveling would definitely take it out of you, and your immune system would cop it, being that tired and worn out all the time. So there's a lot of factors that come into play. Another thing that might be worth mentioning is the amount of international travel. Right? The national travel is one thing, then the international travel is just a different beast altogether. We've had more opportunities in the past 8 months to 12 months than I've seen since I've been a part of esports within Australia anyway. So we're booming, but in saying that, to send players to a national event, that's fine. It's not too hard on the pocket, and it's not too demanding, and it kind of works for everyone because you've got work and stuff, and it's not a full-time job for us. International, there's so many going on now. You're looking at 15 to 20k each trip.
Yeah.
Right. You're looking at taking time off work, and you're looking at people that are inexperienced in the international travel, and we're trying to blood them into it. But there's not enough opportunity for that one particular team to always travel, and key factor is probably funding. There is not that much money in this scene for the funding of traveling and teams, right? So you might get it for events. Events get funding, but the teams don't. So with all this that's going on, it's moving forward in one direction, but then the funding isn't going up at the same level, at the same speed.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's going to go. There's orgs out there that can definitely fund it, not an issue. And they're the obvious ones, Chiefs and Immunity, who have been around for a fair few years now, have been top tier, so they've been able to pull together those big sponsors. But outside of that, it's kind of like they're massive. They're just a big ball of maths, right?
Yeah.
And everything gravitates towards them as expected because they're the best, they're the top, they've been around, they're doing everything right. So anything worth value, straight to them, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard for anyone else to go there. So Atletico, for example, they've got no sponsors from what I can see on the website. Correct me if I'm wrong, boys. So for them to travel overseas, how many times have they gone over? They've gone over at least once, right? They went to China for the SLI. That would have set them back a fair chunk. I think that event might have paid for it though, or at least a portion of it. So that's not so bad. But what about the next one that's not paid for?
Yeah.
And then you don't have a sponsor. You're going to go heavy on the pocket, knowing full well you're not going to make a return on that unless you get to the top. And then even if you do get to the top, you're probably going to bum out your first time you're there, and then you're down. So we need the funding to come in over the top and start supporting all this, particularly the teams that do make it that aren't with the big orgs. And personally, I like to see the underdogs win. So I would like to see those underdogs earn what they deserve.
Yeah.
And
I think
it's hard.
I think in terms of that, it's because the focus on the top tier competition always has to be overseas, not in Australia, which is a big... Well, I mean, that's what everyone thinks, and that's true.
That's what they think right now.
That's what
I think it'll change.
Hopefully so, because hopefully competitions with these. I mean, obviously cons of so many competitions. Not enough time for people to practice, not enough time to sit down. But hopefully that these high level competitions, what it's going to make is that hopefully it's going to give the experience for, say, 4 Division 1 teams to say Division 1, and 4 Division 2 teams to actually compete in one. And another 4 Division 1 teams compete in another, and another 4 Division 2 teams compete in another. That way, it'll bring the level of Division 2 teams up. Sure, they may not win, they'll get the experience.
Experience is key, though.
And because there's no real off-season with so many competitions, hopefully they stay together. Big, I hope. With the Division 1 teams as well, is that because they're playing more league games and everything, they can't get complacent anymore. Because especially with the ESL, say, for example, normally teams would maybe just go cold on one map and they go, okay, we've got to try high on the next 2. But the format they have at the moment, each map counts.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, it's like, hang on a moment, you got to make sure that you come on your A game every single time, because now that it's not just, total series win, it's total map score.
Yeah, and I think that's a good format. It's an interesting format. It's different to what we've experienced in our...
It's a very overseas-y format.
It's good, though, and it kind of reminds me about... if you've ever seen the Intel Extreme Masters tournaments they always try to do something a little bit different, and you got the lives system, so if you lose, you lose a life. And it's kind of adding a different factor and a bit more of an entertainment value towards it, which I really enjoy, because seeing the same thing over and over again every tournament, whether it's local, international, it kind of gets a little bit boring, right? So this is really interesting for me because, like I said, teams need to come to the table or they're just going to get demolished. And whether you win one map 16-0 and the next you lose 16-10, well, look, you can't afford to lose now. You can't afford... It doesn't matter how much you demolish them. It's not a series.
And I think it's good as well because... even though a lot of people are like, oh, they have to play 2 best of 1, because it's classified as 2 best of 1s, even though the veto I think is ban, pick. Mm-hmm. Firstly, you only get to see, I guess, 2 maps, a team would play at most.
Yep. So
it involves, these teams have to play more maps and get out of their comfort zones a little bit more. Because of the previously, maps are so much more important.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, you have to win every single map. But this is going to feed into those qualifiers, which every single map counts.
And this is really good, and I think ESL in particular are moving in the right direction to get us to a platform where we can stand on our own. We don't need to rely on North America, Europe, or even South America to some extent with how many good teams are coming out of there now. So they're moving forward in the right direction in terms of they're trying to build a platform that makes us look prestige and makes people want to stay here, and they're working towards the future, and they see the end goal, right? And they know where it's at, and they know how to get there. And that's a step towards it. But on the same token, what you just mentioned, we're seeing more maps played now. And for too long, Dust was our bread and butter. Then it kind of switched to Mirage. Mirage is like...
It was always Mirage, Cache, pick third map. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty much. So when I entered the scene a few years ago, it was Dust, right? Dust was everything. And then it swapped to Mirage. And I know Corvidae played in one ODC. People just kept picking it against us. And we won 7-8 games in a row. And it's like, what are you guys doing? You know what I mean? And I understand
default map.
You might be good on it, but who cares if it's a default map? You've seen us demolish everyone for 5-6 games now. Surely you're not going to pick it into us. And even the casters got sick of it because they casted 3 of our games in a row. Yeah. Here comes another Mirage. How boring. And people still didn't learn our playstyle, which is pretty ridiculous as well.
Which Corvidae lineup was that? Was that still with Faction and others, or was that with Straxy?
No, that was the main one. Grady and
Grill Alley.
Yeah. That's another story. We'll do a podcast on that later. But
Alistair, Grill confirmed, coming out in spring 2016. Coming from the owner. Nathan knows everything.
I didn't say anything, bro. I saw him. Anyway, so, and teams didn't pick up on our playstyle and what was happening, which is a problem in itself. But now that ESL are forcing people to play other maps, or at least pressuring it slightly, we're being pushing it into a position where we can compete overseas on these other maps. We can't go overseas and go up against, a VP on a Dust. You're going to get routed. You're not going to do that, right? So you need to get out of your comfort zone a little and pretty much shocked. What Sponge said a lot is Renegades were winning with the shock value because people didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Right? And that will work for us initially until you get the experience and you understand what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then when you start learning everyone else and how to strategize against them, that's good. But if you don't have that shock value and you go in there, you're not going to win their best maps. Right? And their best maps are obviously the default ones. Now we're seeing a lot more of Cobble. It's a favorite. I haven't seen much Nuke. I'd like to see Nuke become our main platform, and then we go overseas and we go, this is ours. What are you going to do? You got to take it away from us, or you got to let us play it. You know, and that'd be really good. And ESL really pressuring these things to happen. I think there needs to be more things like that. Maybe if we do a map rotation, so every week this is a map you got to play, whether it's with CG or whoever. I don't care who it's with. I would like to see that because I would like more variety, and I would like to push the players to become better players and the teams to become better teams. And I think that's the way to do it. And like I've said 5, 6, 7 times now, ESL are moving in the right direction to build us our own platform and stand on our own. And they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, because it's just simply because everyone kind of goes, ultimately we're pushing towards a salaried position for everyone.
Yes.
Like that's the esports dream, right? You get paid to do what you generally enjoy doing. And I mean, hopefully we get to go towards a position one day that's similar to that. Because at the moment, with all these competitions now coming out, now exposure coming out as well.
Yep.
Hopefully, I mean, a lot of people say, Oceanic is a small market. Yeah, that may be true, but that's, I mean, I guess we'll probably call it for this podcast, because we can go into more later. But we still have players that we can market. I mean,
we have a lot to market, and I think these are, if we start delving into these topics now, we'll be here for a few hours. But there's definitely a few podcasts we can do on the marketing factor and how big the market actually is.
Yeah.
But you're right, there is a lot we can do, and there's a lot we're not doing. But people see the potential in that, right? And you and I have spoken to a few people that are involved in it. Can't say anything about it, but we know that people want to invest. They're just trying to look for how to unlock the value. And ESL are trying to show them how to unlock the value and put on these big spectacles and make it look really nice.
St. George Bank.
St. George Bank, there you go. There's number one.
I mean, if a year ago, I think someone would have said, we got a bank as a sponsor, I think we would have been laughed out of the room. But look at it now. Look, that's just down to just hard work by ESL once again. I mean, I've been a critic of ESL in the past, but I'm like, at this time, I guess, with a bit more knowledge and a bit more background things, I can go, look, they have their flaws. They have places where they go wrong. But for the majority of the thing, they're just trying to improve esports.
Yeah, and that's the same with AEL, right? So, like you said, ESL have had their flaws. No doubt AEL have had a few things to be criticised on their end. But they did something that no one else was willing to do, or at least couldn't do at that time.
Yeah.
They've put free-to-air on, which was massive. Big production crew, trying to make it a show more than just watching a game. They had a few big sponsors, so obviously SBS, they had a bit of involvement from Fox Sports, Bomberg Watches, and a few other people. I mean, pretty much backed by IESF, who, if you don't know who that is pretty much...
International Esports Federation.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this either, but Alibaba, the richest man in China, has actually invested in IESF. So he's put like $130 million.
Oh no, I heard about that.
$130 million into esports. Buying that was a part of it. So, that helped get them a little bit of traction. But no doubt AL have done a good job, and they're pushing for something that we don't have yet. And whether they did a good job or a bad job is irrelevant. I think we just need to praise the confidence and the kahunas pretty much to go out and try to get something done. And we're moving in the right direction now, and there's big things happening that we can all see. So I'm keen for the future. Hopefully we can sort out these scheduling issues though, because if we have too many more run-ins, again, like you said, teams are going to be pulling out. We don't want to see that. We want to see our best teams compete together. That's how you get the viewers majority of the time. But, again, I would like to see the competition disperse a little and help everyone else out a little bit more. So maybe just a little bit of a balance every now and then. Just delve into something else.
I think for the next E-League one, I think we're trying to do something different. Like, I'm not too involved this time around because I'm a little bit tired. But from what I recall from discussions is that it's going to be quite good. I'm not sure if it's still happening, but it's going to be quite good if it does go ahead. And that obviously, I guess, is going to be an Easter egg surprise. I really want to line this up. There we are. Now I'm happy.
What are you trying to?
I'm lining up with the washing.
Just trying to line up the overlay guys to the
Look at that. It looks like
There it is.
Yeah. That's perfect. And I guess that's the best way to end it on a note, I guess, for now. I mean, we could just go on forever about this.
We can. When we start talking, we don't stop. So,
but we'll call it there for now, I guess, for tonight.
Yeah, well, we've lined it up perfectly, and we can use that as the cut sign, I suppose. So
easy. My name is Krath. I've been joined by Deborah, and we're both part of the Corvidae organisation. So make sure you follow us, join the murder, etc. Hashtag join the murder.
Hashtag join the murder. That's our slogan. Trademarked. Don't steal it. It's about the branding.
So easy. And we should be releasing these hopefully on a fortnightly basis. And yeah, hope to catch you guys next time.
Thanks for watching.